A new study finds that some black-colored plastic used in everyday household items contains high levels of toxic flame retardants. Now, this happens specifically in recycled black plastics because they're mixed in with electronic plastics containing flame retardants. And when they're turned into consumer goods like spatulas or takeout containers, those toxic chemicals remain. Researchers examined 203 products containing black plastics for bromine, a toxic chemical used to make flame retardants, and it found the toxins in 85% of the products, with total concentrations ranging up to nearly 23,000 parts per million. Dr. Leonardo Trasande joins us now. He's a professor of pediatrics and population health at NYU Langone Health. Doctor, good to have you with us. Talk to us about how big of a concern exposure is to these types of chemicals. Is there a safe level of bromine in plastics?
Well, it's easier to recycle this particular color of plastic because it mixes more readily and allows for a final product. But the problem is that these particular plastics that make it recyclable are coming from electronics. And these electronics have flame retardants added in them to prevent them burning up. And that means that they enhance their concentration of flame retardants that we know are toxic to brain development and have other effects, even cancer.
Is there a safe level? When you hear the 23 parts per million, does that concern you, being a pediatrician?
There are no safe levels of these brominated flame retardants. At the lowest levels of exposure, they can shift the function of thyroid hormone during pregnancy. And the baby relies on mom's thyroid hormone through the second trimester of pregnancy. And even in the clinically normal range, small shifts in thyroid hormone can contribute to cognitive deficits and even autism and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Well, and we know that a lot of times these toxic chemicals are leached, especially when they're exposed to heat. And so it's particularly concerning when I'm reading this, thinking about spatulas, thinking about takeout containers that people oftentimes will heat up by putting in the microwave without taking the food out of them. Given that the chemicals are continuing and persisting through the recycling process, should we ban recycling these electronic goods for consumer or products that would end up being in the kitchen?
Well, the main takeaway here is that these chemicals don't discriminate by the color of plastic. We know that chemicals that hack our hormones, our normal signaling molecules underlying basic biological functions, are common across all different types of plastic. Recycling appears to concentrate additional chemical exposures because of the other materials that are in the trash that is essentially sifted to create recycled plastic. But virgin plastic also presents additional chemical exposure concerns. Chemicals used to soften plastics, phthalates, are known to mimic estrogen and antagonize the male sex hormone, testosterone. It can also contribute to obesity as well as other metabolic effects.
So I think that people are hearing this and are going to be very concerned, to say the least. How do we protect our family then?
Well, they're safe and simple steps we can all take, and they don't require a PhD in chemistry, and they don't have to break the bank. Particularly, we need to reduce our plastic footprint. We need to use more stainless steel and glass. When we go grab that nonstick cooking pan, we have to realize that there's a plastic layer on top that prevents the sticking in the first place, whereas cast iron and stainless steel are perfectly reasonable alternatives. Adding a little olive oil to your cast iron pan doesn't hurt either, because olive oil has good fats that are good for your heart as well. In addition, we need to particularly avoid machine dishwashing and microwaving plastic, because that can enhance the leaching and breakdown of the plastic materials into the food that we eat and drink. And if the plastic is obviously etched or scratched, it's time to throw that away.
Very good concrete points. Dr. Leonardo Trasande, thank you.
Thank you for having me.